meditations and prayers of our hearts and the living of our lives be acceptable in your sight, O God, our strength and our Redeemer. Amen. David versus Goliath is one of the great stories of our faith. It's the little guy against the big guy, good against evil. And in the current World Soccer Cup championships that are going on, there was a title about the country of Iceland and its battle against the other countries for this soccer cup. And it was entitled David versus Goliath. So it's still a popular metaphor. And of course, we always identify with David, the underdog, the good guy. There's the nerdy Clark Kent who becomes Superman, the wimp who is transformed into Spider-Man, and Harry Potter battling all the forces of darkness. However, the world is not that simple. Who is the underdog and the overlord? Look at the situation in Israel, the original site of the story of David and Goliath. Are the Palestinians the underdogs striving for their rights against the superior might and force of the Israelis? Or is it the Israelis seeking peace and freedom while surrounded by far more numerous and dangerous enemies? Or in the wider Middle East, are we the underdog, the righteous little David fighting against all the numerous forces of terrorism, nationalism, and religious fanaticism? Or are we the Goliath, seeking to oppose our will by force of military might to keep America great? It depends on one's perspective. Who are the evil giants in our times? Big government, big business, or corporate scandal, or big labor? Are they the ogres, the forces, or are they the forces of progress? And then there are the current campaigns against bullying. Your church, I believe, the Essex Church, has been active in some of those efforts. Even the First Lady has made one of her causes standing up to bullies. Who are the bullies, and how do we deal with them? Life doesn't seem to be as simple as it was in biblical times. So today we have the story of David fighting Goliath. Now, David's a bit of a rogue, a rebel, doing it his own way. He's even rather arrogant and cocksure of himself. And he certainly is the hero, facing down the giant Goliath. So let's look at this story, both in its biblical context and also as a metaphor for our own lives and world. Now, at this period, it's about 1,000 years before Christ. And the fairly newly settled Israelites in the land of Canaan are being threatened from the sea by the sea peoples who invaded the eastern Mediterranean at this time. And the major threat was the Philistines. And one of the ironies of history is that one of the last invaders of this land are the people who gave the name to the land, Palestine, which comes from the name Philistines. And the Philistines are centered in Gaza, as are many Palestinians today. And from there, they are extending their control over much of the land. Now, it's important to note that throughout most of biblical history, the Israelites' control of the land was rather tenuous. The Israelites were strongest in the hill country. Many were shepherds, but their control over the coastland and the plains and even the Jordan River Valley was not great. Other peoples lived there. The land of promise was shared. So here we have the Philistines, and they have a great advantage. This, right, at 1000 BC, is the dawn of the Iron Age, and they have the secret of smelting iron. The Israelites still have bronze weapons. There are several stories in Samuel of the Israelites trying to gain the secret of making iron weapons. And the Philistines are a big people, especially Goliath, who is somewhere between 6 and 10 feet tall, depending on the different texts or who's telling the story. And he's wearing all this armor weighing 150 pounds. And he taunts the Israelites for a month, challenging them to a fight one-on-one. And that's the ancient custom. One man would represent the whole people or tribe. But no one on the Israelite side is willing to take up the challenge. And then here comes along little David, who was a shepherd boy. He's courageous, even brash and cocky. I'll fight him. I've killed both lions and bears. I will give your flesh to the birds of the air and the wild animals of the field. Now, David does not have much going for him. He can't even fit in to Saul's armor or wear it. It's way too big and cumbersome. He can't even walk in it. So he just takes his slingshot. And King Saul says to him, "Go and may the Lord be with you. Good luck, you're really going to need it." But David is courageous, even foolhardy. As David proclaims, "The Lord does not save by sword and spear, or by personal or military might." And that's an important wisdom for our own times as well. And so the others are filled with fear. David is armed with the trust in God. "I come to you in the name of God whom you have defied." David is acting not just for vainglory or for the defense of Israel, but for God. So David then goes into battle. And there are the three famous statues of young David in this battle that perhaps you're familiar with. Certainly the most famous is the one by Michelangelo, where David looks like Apollo, the god of beauty, serene and regal. Then there's the one by Donatello, and David there is a handsome young lad. He looks like he's out for a Sunday stroll. And then there's a famous sculpture by Bernini. David is twisting, churning in the struggle to hurl the stone from the slingshot. There's all the passion and the energy and the power. David has the courage to be a hero, to go forth into battle. His main weapon is his trust in the Lord, and he wins the day. He kills Goliath. So how do we fight our battles? We might prefer power and might, even real swords and guns and ammunition. And there's a stark contrast going on here in the story. There are the classical virtues of courage, fortitude, strength, will, power, might. And then there are the qualities or strengths of God: truth, righteousness, peace, faith, salvation, the Spirit, which is the armor that we use in our battles in life or our struggles with giants. And that's reflected in our hymns today. And these words do really mean something. "We who would valiant be, though we with giants fight," that is the struggle. Or our last hymn, "A mighty fortress," "And though the world with devils filled should threaten to undo us, we will not fear, for God has willed the truth to triumph through us." Or some of the other old favorite hymns: "Stand up for Jesus," "Put on the gospel armor," each one put on with prayer. Or the words of "Lead on, O King Eternal," "For not with swords loud clashing, nor roll of stirring drums, but deeds of love and mercy, the heavenly kingdom comes." That's the armor of the Christian. So as we struggle with giants, may we be like David, willing to face the monsters or demons, to name the giant for who or what it is, and to use the appropriate armor for us. And then even to say, like David, to put our trust in God. "You come to me with sword and spear and javelin, but I come to you in the name of the Lord of hosts. God will deliver, And may that be our faith as well. Amen.